Ahoy there! I'm Craig, and I'm a developer. I am so incredibly honored to get to show you how to send your first message with Twilio. But before we get there, though, we should probably talk about what a message even is, right? So, on my phone, I've got an app called Messages. And when I want to send a message, I can choose any one of my contacts, type some words, and most likely some emojis, and then press send, and then ba-ding, they get it on their phone, on whatever app they might be using. The message gets sent using the Short Message System Protocol, or SMS. Short here means it's only 160 characters. If my message is longer than that, my app just automatically splits up the text into what is called message segments and sends those along. And the app on the other side gets the segments and stitches them back together. I can also send photos to my contacts from that same app. And when I do, my Messages app automatically switches to a new protocol, MMS, or Multimedia Messaging Service. This protocol also enables group texting, which I find extremely helpful because it allows me to send mass texts to my friends and family showing off my kids. They're really cute. And not to brag even more here, but some of my contacts, well, they live outside of where I live. They're international contacts. When we send messages, we don't use the same messaging app. We could, but the way that the rules and regulations work, those vary by country, and it gets a little challenging and sometimes pretty expensive to navigate. So what we do is we use another app to send each other messages. Typically we use WhatsApp, and WhatsApp feels pretty similar. They pretty much have the same interface. I type my words, I attach my photos, but WhatsApp is actually using a different protocol to send. Basically, it's really straightforward to send a message using my apps, and that is exactly what we want our API to feel like. Here, let me show you how it feels. So I'm here on the Twilio docs page. This is twilio.com/docs. I love our docs and our docs team too. Truly the best in the biz. This video that you're watching actually has a corresponding docs page. I'd love for you to check that page out. I'll drop all the links that I mentioned there, and things are always changing as we improve things, so I'll make sure to keep the docs page updated with anything that might be different from my right now to your right now. So we're going to send an SMS, so I'm going to choose SMS. Over here on the left nav, you'll see that there's these folders, and I can collapse these folders. What we're looking for is the API reference, and under the API reference, there's a thing called a message resource. We provide a RESTful API, and message is a resource. So creating a message sends the message, and you can use the API to fetch all of the messages that have been sent. So if you look over here on the right, this is called the code rail, and there's code samples here. And it just so happens that what we're looking to do is create a message. It just happens to be here. But if you do this drop down, you can actually see all the different things that you could do. Like here's how you would list all messages. Now I'm going to flip that back to create a message because that's where we want to be. And I want you to also notice that we have different languages here. We have Node, Python, C#, Java, PHP, Ruby. And you can actually see that it's just curl. It's just a straight API here. Each one of these helper libraries feel familiar in the language that they're at. Like for instance, here's Node.js, and we'll see that it does client.messages.create, and then it does a then. And that's because it's a promise. But you know what? I'm feeling a little Pythonic, so I'm going to grab the Python code sample, and I'm going to click this copy button, my favorite action, copy pasta. And I'm going to pop over to my code editor, and I'm going to make a new file, and I'm going to call it explore.py. And in here, I am going to pasta that code in here. Now, it just so happens that I already have the Twilio Python helper library installed, and I did that using my package manager, which happens to be pip. But all of the programming languages have a similar plan for package management. Check the notes for more on that. Okay, so you'll see here that we're importing from twilio.rest, we're importing clients. And again, all of our helper libraries let you create an authenticated client, a REST client. And you do that by passing in what is known as your AccountSID and your AuthToken. These can be found in your console. So if we go back over to the console, you'll see here that I have this AccountSID, that's string identifier, and AuthToken, you'll see the AuthToken here is hidden because you never want to let this be leaked out. If you do, someone could log into your account. It's like leaving your keys on your car. You don't do that. And that's why over in our code, it's suggesting that we use environment variables, which is a best practice whenever using an API key. And you can get more information here at this twil.io/secure. So we passed in that AccountSID and that AuthToken, and now we have this authenticated client. And that client has a namespace called messages. And that has access to all of the messages, and it also has the ability to create new ones. So I'm going to send a message to myself. You'll see that right now it says 2 here. I'm going to put my number in here. Now I have that in an environment variable. I'm just getting to know you, but I don't think I'm quite ready to give you my phone number. Not yet. Not yet. If you are in trial mode, you'll only be able to send a message to verified numbers, which you did during signup. So what you do is you would write your personal number here. This is who the message will be sent to, right? Who the message will be sent to. I am not in trial mode, and I've actually gone and bought a number. When you're out of trial mode, you can buy as many numbers as you want. We'll talk about them shortly, but there are some regulations based on your location. Now, I'm in the United States, and after going through the regulation guidance for the United States, I decided that since I was just exploring, that I'd first buy a toll-free number. Now, this could be found in the console as well. So if I go back to the console and I look at all my numbers, view all numbers here, it's also on the left, we have this phone numbers, and you can get into your active numbers. So this is my phone number here, this 888, this is my toll-free number here. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to grab that number, and I'm going to pop back over to my code, and in the from here, I'm going to paste that number. There we go. I'm going to put this into a format called E164 where I get rid of all of the other characters. So there we go. There is my toll-free number. One thing to point out here, you'll notice that this parameter here is called from with an underscore at the end, and that's because from is a reserved word in Python, and the helper library automatically appends that underscore for the parameter name in Python. And now, for the body, the message body, this is the text of what we want to send. So let's change it. Let's see. Let's do ahoy there. Oh, we'll do ahoy world from Python, and we could put an emoji in here if we want to, and I want to put a snake in here. Awesome. So ahoy was the original way that we used to answer the phone, like before we started saying hello, like we do now. What we used to do is go ahoy, and the other side would go ahoy hoy. A lot has changed. We still like to embrace that history around these parts, and this is indeed the ahoy world of message sending. So now that we got our argument set properly, you'll see that the create call here returns a message object. And then you'll see that we're printing out the message SID, right? We're printing out the string identifier. We can put some more properties here. So I'm going to use an F string, and we'll say the SID is this for the message. And then we'll go ahead and I want to print out the status of the message so that we can see that as well. The status is message. This is what we do in Python. You just do this F string at the beginning, and then I can replace an object in context here. So it'll print out this message.status. That's a property that's on there. All right, I think that we are ready. So we have the authenticated client, and we are creating a new message to me from my number with the body of Ahoy World. I think we're good to go. All right, so we're ready. I'm going to save it. Let's see what we got. So if it all is working, I'm going to type Python Explorer, and we should get, boom, there's the SID, and it's queued, and boop, I got my message. Look at that. Pretty cool, right? Just a single API call, and ba-ding, your message is sent, just like the messaging app. Now, we've seen builders like you deliver incredible solutions with this single API call. Notifications like, your package has shipped, your tacos are ready for pickup, or at the airport, your gate has changed. These urgent workflow messages work extremely well, and that's because 98% of all messages that are sent are opened, which is impressive, right? By the way, that open rate also makes messaging an awesome tool for promotional efforts. Now, you most likely already have gotten some requests from your marketing team asking for you to help to send out messages to your top customers. Something along the lines like, thanks for your loyalty, enjoy 10% off this weekend. Now, if you've received messages like this from brands that you interact with, you might have noticed that the message came from a number that doesn't look like a phone number. Something like 555-123. This is called a short code, and they allow you to send a lot of messages all at once. Shortcodes have a higher throughput, which in this case means how many messaging segments you're able to send per second. There are regulations in place that limit throughput. Which reminds me, we should probably take a quick look at some of those regulations. You'll notice here that when I sent that message, the status was queued. Now that's because we automatically queue your messages up for you. This allows you, as a developer, to submit as many API calls as you need to send messages. And we deal with ensuring that the messages that you send out line up with the regulations that are in place. We'll send them out compliantly, and you can register a webhook listener to track when your message is delivered successfully. More on this in the notes. Regulatory guidelines vary by country based on where your number is located as well as where you are trying to send your message. So here's SMS guidelines. I put a link to this guidelines page in the notes. Make sure you familiarize yourself with the guidelines of the countries that you'll be messaging. While these guidelines are universal to anyone or any service that's sending a message, Twilio also does have an acceptable use policy. This is how we make sure that we don't allow bad actors on our platform. No one likes spam. Now, I've dropped this in the notes as well. Now, since you own your number, you can write code that corresponds to an incoming message. So here's my number. I can write code that corresponds to an incoming message. So if I come in here and I scroll down, you'll see that there's this, when a message comes in, I can do something with it. Now, this is an awesome tool for your tool belt. Studies show that 45% of people respond to a conversational message. Now, this is a powerful means of input to your applications, and we provide many ways for you to write this code to handle the incoming message. More about this use case and many more in the notes. Now, a popular use case that I want to make sure that I point out ahead of time is one-time passcodes, or OTP. You know the game, the one where you verify who you are via an SMS message and a code gets texted to you, you enter the code in the UI of the application. Now, I know that you could write that. I know you could, but I don't want you to because we already did. Let me introduce you to Verify. Verify lets you do exactly that, the one-time passcode, and many more things. It's actually a harder problem to solve than you might initially think. And on top of it, we have multi-channel, right? We can send this not just over SMS, but over everything. There's all sorts of fraud that's possible when people are trying to attempt this. There's a thing called SMS pumping fraud, and we now offer Fraud Guard, which you want to have in place. And we buy the numbers, and you don't need to worry about all the regulations. We got you. This is a very common use case that we saw devs building over and over, and it turns out, like I said, it's more complicated than it seems. We want you focusing on building what you want to be building. Leave the verification up to us. And I know that I just dropped a lot of information on you. Please, if you run into any problems at all, remember to ask questions. We love to help you build. And with that, I hope you're feeling equipped to send your first message. And I'm also hoping that you realize that we have your back. We'll keep you up to date and ensure that those important messages that you're sending are compliant. And we'll continue getting you information about how to get your message to the right people at the right time. Thanks so much for hanging out. We can't wait to see what you built.